So let's take a look at actually working with some of the reports. Now, the reports are going to be generated by default depending on the type of workspace that you used as a template. So in this specific workspace, I used the agent and queue template. So I will have a couple of extra reports for things like queues and agents. However, if I change my workspace over to a call management workspace and I go back to the reports, you'll see that I do not have the agent and queue reports. However, they have been replaced by a couple of extra reports, things like calls by week. Right, so I'm going to just navigate back to my call center workspace. And there are my reports. Now, it's worth mentioning that these reports are only going to contain historical data, meaning calls that have already been completed on VVP and synchronized over to Xarios. So if you did want to see some live statistics on calls, then I would suggest using the wallboards because that's the intended purpose. Now, you are not limited to the reports that you see on screen. Any of these reports can be cloned or copied and then edited, and all of the fields can be taken out and additional fields added in or changed in any way that suits your requirement. So in this specific example, we're going to just click on a couple of reports just to show you what that looks like. So the agent summary report. So if I did have a call center and I did have the ACD feature turned on for my agents, then you can see I will be able to see some information about my agents. So how many calls they fielded, total talk time, time on duty, time logged out, things like that. Right, I also have the ability to apply a filter. Now, a filter is a really nice way for you to cherry pick bits of information out of your report that you want to see, and we will have a separate video on how to actually create your filters. But if you did want to apply them, you would do them under the report. So in the top right corner over here, I also have the ability to change the date range in terms of the data that you'll see on this report. So right now it is set to this quarter. I can change it to this week for argument's sake, and click apply, and then it'll just change my data range that you see on the report. Now you also have the ability to download your reports, and you can see there I can save them as a number of different image types or a PDF, or I can export this data in a grid form to an Excel for you to go ahead and manipulate that data as you see fit. I also have the ability to change my current report view from perhaps a more grid-like view to a chart view. So obviously this would work really well if you had quite a number of agents in here and you wanted to compare them on a bar graph type style, then yes, you can do that as well. And you can just simply click back to my other view and you'll see it, and then it'll just go back to your grid style. Now, the great thing about these reports as well is that not only do you click on a report and be able to view the data, you also have the ability to interact with this data. So anything that is hyperlinked, you can actually click on to drill down further into that specific segment, and then you can go ahead and look and see. So for right now, I am just clicking on my user, and then once I do that, it'll actually show me every single call that this specific user or agent fielded within the time frame that I have specified. Now, likewise, for actual calls, we can actually just go back to a report that does show me calls by a certain period, for argument's sake. So if I said, go and take a look at calls by number, right? So this report is going to be geared around not necessarily agent-specific data, but more call-centric data. So you can see a lot of the columns that you see on the screen here will change. So outside numbers, caller ID names, total calls, percentage of incoming calls, total talk time, and things like that. So if I did click on a specific number, it will now show me how many times this number actually rang through. So I made 4 test calls, and you can see how one of those calls were answered, and then I can go ahead and click on that, and then it'll take me through to the actual call session. So this is now giving you a rough overview of how this call actually arrived at your account, how long it rang for, the dates, the times, the ring timers, the talk timers, duration, all of that information that will be shown on your screen as well. So it will also show you the different segments of the call. Now, a call segment is a specific part of the call. So if a call came into the account to one specific user and that user then transferred the call away to another user, we would essentially see two segments to that call. One segment that came in initially and the second segment when the call was transferred away. Now you will also see a connections section at the bottom. Now a connection section is how many SIP or voice devices were involved in this call. So a good example would be is if a call was routed to a ring group and that ring group contained 4 different devices and they all rang at the same time, then what you would see at the bottom of here is you would see 4 connections, and if one person picked up, you would see a segment for the person that actually picked up. So it's quite nice for you to identify how many devices rang, who didn't pick up the phone, who did pick up the phone, etc.